A few months ago, Assassin's Creed 4 Black Flag was leaked to have been getting a remake that is now currently in development. And this was kind of like a surprise for most of the Assassin's Creed community, and it's widely regarded as a weird fucking move. Yes, of course, Assassin's Creed 4 Black Flag was extremely popular, and there's still a huge demand for pirate games that the video game industry as a whole hasn't really satisfied, especially with Ubisoft leading the attack on the genre with Skull and Bones, which is a complete disaster. There's only really Sea of Thieves and a couple other games that kind of serve that pirate fantasy genre. With Ubisoft switching from an assassin-focused franchise into a historical fantasy-focused franchise with some assassins in it, it makes sense from a business perspective as to why they would want to remake such a popular time period like Black Flag, especially when Black Flag is already so well reviewed and critically regarded as one of the better Assassin's Creed games. I get it from a business perspective, I get it from a new identity perspective for Ubisoft, but it doesn't really make sense to me from an Assassin's Creed franchise perspective. To remaster a game that's first of all not that old, and that didn't need remastering in the first place because the mechanics work well, most of the bugs have been fixed, the story is perfect, and the graphics and the lighting is still good because it has wonderful art direction which tends to give games much more longevity than simply good graphics. It didn't really make sense. Overall, most people would agree that if they had to pick one Assassin's Creed games out of the entire franchise to get a remake, it would not be Black Flag. When you talk to people that have been fans of Assassin's Creed for a long time, there are two specific games that usually are crowned kings of the game that deserves a remake, and that's either Assassin's Creed 1 or Assassin's Creed Unity. Today I want to discuss which of those games I think deserves it the most, and my answer is both. And what I want to do is something that not a lot of people successfully do, which is make the distinction between a remake and a remaster. The reason why I want to make this distinction is because whether you mean a remake or a remaster when you're in this conversation, my answer changes. For example, I think that Assassin's Creed 1 deserves the remake the most, and I think AC Unity deserves the remaster the most. So first of all, let's just divide this video into two parts. First, I'm going to talk about the remake of Assassin's Creed 1, and then I'm going to talk about the remaster of Assassin's Creed Unity. AC1. Why do I think that it needs to be remade? There's three main reasons why I think this game needs to be remade. One is because it's an absolute classic. This is the game that started it all. This is the game that introduced the world to the Assassins and the Assassin's Creed, and symbolically, after 15-16 years, it would be a wonderful game to get back in modern consoles with modern technology. But going deeper than that, I think there's two more reasons why I think this game deserves the remake the most. Number one is because I think people need to be reintroduced to the original, stripped-back assassin fantasy. Assassin's Creed 1 is without a doubt the most Assassin's Creed that the franchise has ever been. And now that we've lost our way in terms of franchise identity and Ubisoft seems to be chasing trends wherever they can, I think the franchise is in dire need of introducing new audiences and reminding old audiences of what Assassin's Creed is supposed to be. Assassin's Creed 1, I think, to this day is the best introduction you can have to the franchise, and it's how you would summarize it if you were presenting it to anyone else. I think that revamping it with modern technology, modern graphics, modern lighting, and more importantly, modern mechanics would be a wonderful way to basically reinvigorate the series for fans that either forgot about the series or just came in so early that they don't really know anything about Assassin's Creed 1. So I think it would be the best game to remake as long as they stuck to the original vision and philosophy that made Assassin's Creed 1 great. Now, the third reason, once we look past the symbology of remaking the first AC 16 years later, past the second reason of reintroducing an audience to what Assassin's Creed truly is and the quintessential assassin fantasy, we have a third reason, which is the reason I'm most passionate about because I'm such a huge fan of AC, but also a very particular fan of Altair and his story. And the third reason is that there's so much to Altair's story that either wasn't told completely or not told properly that I think we need to go back to Assassin's Creed 1 and retell. AC1 has a wonderful but somewhat simplistic story that narrows down Altair's story into 10 targets, 10 main conversations, and a twist of fate at the end. But if you read the novel and you play the side games, you realize that Altair's story is basically on par with Ezio's in terms of beauty, tragedy, philosophy, and drama. I think it would be remiss to not remake Assassin's Creed 1, integrating the story from the side games and chronicles and give Altair his flowers. After all, he's the one who started the franchise, he's the one that gave way to Ezio, he was the original poster boy, the original assassin, and he deserves for his whole story to be told. Assassin's Creed The Secret Crusade is the book that novelized the accounts of Assassin's Creed 1, Chronicles, Bloodlines, and even Revelations. And it's, to be fair, I promise you, one of the best Assassin's Creed stories I've ever experienced. I think Altair's life is similarly tragic to Ezio's, and he learns a lot of things a little too late that you could apply to your own lives and that a lot of assassins applied to their own. So I think these are the three main reasons why I think AC1 deserves the remake the most out of all the Assassin's Creed games. Because to go back to our definitions, a remake is when you basically from the ground up remake an old game. You just from scratch make it again. You're remaking it with a new engine, you're having new mechanics, new graphics, new lighting, new voice acting, new everything. It's just a brand new game that is based off of the old game, the script, the story, the basic structure, but it's basically just a new game. And I think that AC1's unique position of having an interesting character that didn't quite have have the technology to make it what it needed to be, and having so many interesting stories on the side that you could incorporate into this new game, I think it's the perfect opportunity to remake an Assassin's Creed game that doesn't seem like a quick cash grab. It would be a true remake that adds to the story of Altair, brings it to new modern audiences, and it would be a complete success in the eyes of fans. Now, if we shift the conversation to remaster, which for the purposes of this video and generally speaking is just defined as kind of updating a game to make it a little bit more modern, but still keeping the skeleton of the game, you're basically just updating textures, perhaps the lighting, maybe a few new assets here and there, making the whole game world a little bit more populated, a bit more polished, and taking care of the bugs. And the second that I say bugs and taking care of them, we go directly to AC Unity. I think AC Unity still stands the test of time. I think that it's a game that, even though it's almost 10 years old now, certainly looks better than a lot of Assassin's Creed games and a lot of AAA games in the space. And that's because the lighting and the detail that they added to Paris was so high-end and so ambitious and obsessive that you really cannot compare it to anything now in terms of how much love went into this game. The world is just so detailed that it doesn't really need any remaking. It just needs basically a facelift. A remaster, in my mind, for Assassin's Creed Unity would first of all get rid of all the bugs. This is something that is somewhat possible and pretty much completely possible because we've seen it on PC. Someone called Name Taken made a very popular Assassin's Creed Unity mod called ACU Fixes, which basically fixed most of the bugs and mechanical inconsistencies and shortcomings of Assassin's Creed Unity. And apart from those deep mechanical flaws, I think AC Unity could be polished and a very playable game in 2024 if you incorporate those things and add things like making it 4K for updated consoles, making sure that there's not that many pop-ins, making sure that the draw distances are better, just basically giving the game a facelift. But overall, AC Unity just kind of needs like a freshening up. It doesn't need a whole remake to be delivered to new audiences. I honestly think that with the reputation that it has online now, AC Unity as a remaster would do absolute bits. It has so much fame online, it has so much goodwill, it has so many people claiming that they want a sequel to it that I just don't see how it could fail if they just remastered the game properly and fixed the deep bugs and essential issues that don't require a whole remake. Now, I also don't only want to make the case as to why AC Unity deserves a remaster, but I also want to explain why I don't think that it deserves a remake. The reason why is because AC Unity working at all is a miracle. It doesn't work very often, but when it does, it's kind of like a miracle. A lot of the developers said that they don't really know how they made the parkour work or how it does work. They had to invent so many new lines of code just to make it work, and I don't really have faith that the current developers at Ubisoft would have the time, budget, or talent to make it work in the same way. Ubisoft used to be extremely ambitious in a way that it's just not now, and what made AC Unity popular was this novel, incredible parkour with insane graphics and lighting, and I don't think that if they started from scratch and tried to make a brand new game that was like AC Unity, they would ever reach that level. I don't think Paris would ever be that detailed or realistic. I don't think the parkour would ever be that stylish or cinematic. I just don't think that they would ever recapture that almost lightning in a bottle moment that they had with AC Unity. I just think Ubisoft in the past, in terms of talent and dedication and ambition for a game, is greater than Ubisoft now. So I would be much more comfortable with AC Unity just being remastered and keeping the broken, beautiful face that it has and trying to give it a facelift and salvaging it as much as you can, which, thanks to Name Taken, we know that you can. So I think that AC Unity would be the best game to remaster, and I think that AC1 would be the best game to remake. However, I do think there is a lot to be said for Black Flag being remade from a marketing perspective, and I do think that there are other games like AC2 that could do with a remake. I think specifically Unity would benefit the most from a remaster or just a revisiting, because right now Unity has a legend, a mystique, and a reputation that's not really justified by the current game we have, and it kind of sets an impossible standard for future Assassin's Creed games. And if you want to hear me discuss how it sets that impossible standard, you can watch this video now.